Hello all, Scott Grove here. I'm here today to talk to you about speaker cabinets, open back, closed back, half open back, and so forth. And this is for people who are just starting out. Somebody has to teach you these things. Okay, now the big difference between amplifiers is generally just that. Depending on the sound you're looking for, this should dictate whether you get an amplifier that has like two 12-inch speakers in it and an open back, which means you can actually see the backs of the speakers. It's all open there. You can, toss crap back in the back of it or whatever. But when you get an amp like that, generally you'll get all your country players, like your Fender Twin Reverbs, and a lot of your little combo amps will have an open back. Again, so you can see the speakers. It gives you a good bright sound if you keep the amplifier away from a wall or put it on an amp stand. Now the days are long gone, hopefully, of the stupid thing of taking amplifiers and tilting them back on chairs when you go play a gig. That just looks horrible, always has, always will. And they make amp stands out of steel, and they're readily available for 25 or 30 bucks brand new. So get an amp stand if you're going that route for a little combo amp. Those amps, again, are designed to not have a lot of bottom end in it, and they're not going to get it unless you do a couple little things that I'm going to tell you about. Okay, it's because all the bass is escaping out the back of the amplifier. Okay, so you're playing. Yeah, your normal sound comes out the front, but if you are familiar with the way that sound PA cabinets and so forth are designed, they're designed with different ports in them and so forth. And same with car audio with the ports in them, and it allows the cabinet to be what is called tuned, so that the cabinet itself, the speaker cabinet, can do actually more work in the bass end than the speaker itself is doing. All the bass amps do this, blah blah blah. You'll see, like 410 cabinets, 410-inch speakers, but then those aren't really putting out much more than the high end of the sound. The sound, so you have the ports in there, which are using all of that space inside those big deep bass cabinets and pushing the low frequencies out these open holes, the ports. Okay, so the bass amps, they have those ports in there too to really give it that big bottom end, especially if you're using 5-string basses, or in today's music with 7-string, 8-string, 9-string guitars that are tuned so far down. You are not going to get the sound you want with an open back amplifier. Okay, it's just not going to happen, but you can help it happen, okay, with a little help from me. And these are very basic tips that everybody should know. So after today, you'll know. Okay, again, country players and so forth, we like to use open air, which means the amp is setting on an amp stand and it is not butt up against a wall. Because if you take an amplifier like a Fender Twin or anything, again, like I'm talking about, where you can see the speakers in the back, and you push that amp up against a wall, then it basically becomes a closed back amp, and it will sound like a completely different amp. Okay, and this is something you might want to explore, and this is a reason. Those amps are usually very affordable, and again, if you put them up against a wall, you will increase your bass response by tons. And depending on if you move it 1 inch away from the wall, 2 inches away from the wall, 3 inches away from the wall, that will actually change the sound of your amp again. You are actually what is called tuning your speaker cabinet. You are letting more air out by moving it away from the wall, that open back. But if you put it right up against the wall, if you're using a tube amp, number one, you could very well put some burn spots right there into the old drywall. Okay, club owners don't dig that too much, but hey, carry around a little bit of toothpaste or some white paint and give it a little touch up before you go, and you're fine. Another thing you can do that is so easy and you don't have to mess up your amp, and you can always resell it as fresh, is Velcro. go grab a hunk of wood, okay, spray paint it black, and actually just put sticky, put 4 or 6 pieces of Velcro on the back of your amp in different places, and slap a board on the back. Just remember to cut a little hole to be able to, run your power cord out of. And even if you do tilt your amp back or whatever, and you want that extended bass, or all of a sudden this incredible, this huge amount of bass that you could not get out of your amp before, now you can. Just simply Velcro a piece of wood to the back of your amp, and you are good to go. Now there are amps that are called halfbacks, and these are 412 cabinets are done this way too. You'll see like Marshall cabinets, the backs are totally closed in, and they've got major balls because they are closed in. Okay, so they are just resonating all that bass in there, and it just flies out. Okay, so that's called a closed back cabinet. So a lot of people use the closed back cabinets to really get some major crunch, some low ball, just the balls. Okay, and people now are also cutting a small port in the back of those cabinets that are completely sealed, and miking them from the back through that port, and then miking the speakers in the front, especially again for extended range instruments like 7 and 8 string and 9 string guitars and so forth. So they mic the back of it so they can get all that bass coming through the mic, through the PA, plus the mic on the front for the clarity. You mix those two together and you just make for a thunderous sound. Okay, now back to the open back cabinets. You can do the same thing where you create your tuning of the cabinet. Say it gets just too rumbly. Yeah, you could turn down your bass, but it may not be that same frequency as the bass knob on your amplifier. It's just because bass is not good just because it's bass. It has to be the right frequency too. So you can actually take that piece of wood once you've cut it for the back of your amp and stick it on there, and you're like, wow, that's just pretty damn bassy. You can start by either just drilling out a hole here and there to kind of open up some air, and that will actually tune the cabinet so that it actually changes the frequency of the low end. So instead of it being like 80 hertz, it is now 100 hertz that you're hearing. Okay, these are all frequencies on the equalizer. Okay, so you can mess around with that, or you can cut part of that off, part of the whole back of this new piece of wood you've made, and just cut off a couple, 2-3 inches. Try it that way. Or before you ever even actually cut anything off, have your buddy or you just duct tape it to the back of your amp for a little while and see how much of the back of the amp you actually want to close off and where it sounds best. Okay, so raise it up, raise it up, raise it up until it's like, oh, right there. And then you can say, okay, it's like 4 inches I need to leave open in the back of the amp, and it'll always sound like that. Never put it up against the wall again, because you want it to always sound the same at every gig. That's why you don't want to take an amp, tilt it back at one gig, then put it up high on something and slam it against the wall on the next gig. It's because it's going to sound different at every gig unless you have a closed back amp that is 100% sealed. Okay, so that is how to remedy that situation, and why your amp always sounds different at the music store than when you get it home. It's at the music store, it is up against the wall for a reason, or it's backed up against other amps, facing each way for a reason. It's so it will kick balls while you're in the music store. Then you take it home and you set it in the middle of your living room and play, and it's a little open back amp, and all of a sudden it has nothing. It don't sound anything like it just did when you paid $1,000 for it. That's because now it's open back amp in the middle of an open room, and you're cutting your bass. Your bass is gone. You could turn your bass on your amp on 10 and it will not do anything until you push that amp against a wall. That's the cheapest thing you can do. But then you've got your amp at your feet, so you have no ears on your feet, so you don't want it there. You need your amp hitting you in the ear so you can hear it, and not so much everybody else on the band has to hear it. They can put it in their monitor mix if they want to hear it. Okay, your amp is always just for you to hear, nobody else. Nobody out front is going to hear it because it's going to come through the PA. So your amp is for your ears only, believe it or not. Okay, so you could pay $5,000 for an amp, and it is only for you to hear. Okay, it's its only purpose. Nobody else is supposed to hear your amp. Again, if they want to hear it, they put it through their monitor mix, you know, in the PA. Everybody should have their own separate monitor mix, not just one mix that everybody has to deal with. There's so much gear out there, it's so cheap these days, it's ignorant to have one monitor mix. You know, spend another 20 bucks and get 4 monitor mixes, okay? Okay, now you get the bigger brothers of these, like little Marshall amps behind me, but you get to those cabinets. Okay, they're completely sealed. Again, they give you that bottom end, but a lot of companies, they will actually have where the top 2 speakers are open in the back and the bottom 2 speakers are sealed. So you've got your bass back there, and you have the sound of the open cabinets at the top, and they will mic the top speaker and they will mic the bottom speaker and combine the two. They will even use Celestion speakers in the top 2 and Electro Voice speakers in the bottom, and change things around and mic both of them. One sounds better when it is enclosed, one sounds better when it's open air. So there are all kinds of different things to consider when you're doing the whole amplifier thing. It's not that your amp is horrible sounding, it's that you just simply have not watched this video yet and you don't know how to tune your amplifier properly and why it sounds the way it does. If you are disappointed in it, or if you just love that sound and you can't get it out of your neighbor's amplifier, why can't you get that sound? Why can't he get it? He's jealous of you. What can he do? Well, if he has an open back amp and he wants balls, shove it against the wall or put a back on it. Okay, seal it in and you've got instant balls. Okay, and again, especially if you are a person who detunes, if you tune an E flat or a drop D, or you have the 6th or 7th string on your guitar, the 8th string, the 9th string, you have to get more bottom end out of it, and extra. Conventional guitar amp is not conventional. Hi, Forrest. A conventional guitar amp is not meant to reproduce those frequencies, so you have to make your amp capable of doing so. So you have to get more bottom end out of it. So if you have the Marshall cabinets, which still are not, or any kind of 412 cabinet, they are not designed to handle those kind of frequencies. So you have to retune by porting, that's right, putting a hole in the back of the amp somewhere, and then possibly buying a port tube, a big plastic tube that sits in and is 4 inches, 8 inches, 12 inches long, and tune that cabinet so that you can get the most out of those low strings, and then mic it. Put a mic right at the edge of that port, or right inside of it, and a mic in the front, and then the cabinet will be able to reproduce those frequencies needed for extended range guitars. Okay, so that's basically it. I'm not actually going to play anything, of course, or show you anything, but just to tell you that that is why, especially like Fender amps or the little crate amps or whatever, like I said, if you can see the speaker in the back and you're trying to get balls out of it, okay, you can't until you do what I told you. Okay, you either put it against the wall. Okay, you're not going to get much out of an 8-inch speaker or a 6-inch speaker and with the back pushed up against the wall. It's just not going to happen. You just got to get a better amp. But when you're out there looking for an amp, if you want the balls, make sure the back is closed in. If it's open, you're not going to get it unless you have to do a do-it-yourself science project and put the backs on these things yourself. Okay, sure, if you can buy it off Craigslist for 30 bucks and then buy a piece or steal a piece or whatever of particle board and slam it on the back, and you're good with that and you can live with that, then fine, you're going to be okay. Okay, again, experiment with how much open air you have on the back, and before you make anything solid or screw anything in or even do the Velcro thing or whatever, move the whole board around to see how much open air sounds good, because totally closed on an amp that is not meant to be totally closed in may not sound perfect to you. Okay, so experiment with how much is open. Okay, they should make them with little doors on the back that can kind of go like this, open and close as much as they need to in order to get the exact sound. I'm sure somebody makes something like that. If not, feel free to make a gazillion dollars off that idea. But that is basically that. So again, close in the back of the amps that you need more bottom end out of. If you are a country player or a jazz player and everything you want to be light and airy, then an open back amplifier is 100% for you. That's what I use because I play country things and I do not need any more bottom end than I have. I need it twangy, I need it clean, I just don't need the overtones. Okay, but those of you who do, that's how you get them. And again, for everybody that's hauling around these 412 cabinets and so forth, and they are not deep enough to handle those extended range tunings you're using, you will probably have to simply, cut a hole in the back of your cabinet and put a port tube in there. Use rubber cement or the silicone to hold that in forever. And again, like I said, put the mic there and in the front so you can get your clarity, not just the back of your speaker because that will sound horrid, but that's the only way currently available here in 2012 to make these extended range guitars boomy enough and to tune them in exactly how you need them. You might have to put, they have, some of these cabinets have like 4 ports across them. Some have 4 across the top, 4 across the bottom in the back. You don't see them because you don't go to the gigs and get live on stage and go around behind their amps to see what they've actually done to these things. Okay? You're just stuck with what you find at Guitar Center, and you're not with the big boys and see how it's actually done. Okay? So this is what people are doing. They're micing them from the back. They are porting them. They're doing all kinds of things to make all these, multi-string guitars work. Okay, so once again, for the nice airy sounds, leave them open. The more bottom end in that you need, the more you need to close the back of the cabinet. And again, if you have extended range instruments, you're going to need to go further because these kind of cabinets where they're sealed in the back were meant to only go so low frequency wise, but that is their intention in design, is to give you more bottom end. But now we want more bottom end, so you have to create that, and that's how you do it, is with the ports in the back and doing the right amount of them till it's tuned perfectly to where it sounds just right, and then miking from the back, miking from the front, and then letting the cabinet actually be retuned to the new style of instruments that are being made these days. So since the amps are not designed yet to accommodate such things unless you play your guitar through a bass amp, which is always a possibility, but generally then you don't have the high sparkle of a guitar amp. So you have to do all kinds of weird things. So porting and shoving it against a wall and all these things are just things to consider. So try them and just know that your amp is not a total waste. You can make it work. Okay, so those are just a few things. Okay, so it's just a lecture. That's all you get today. Okay, so somebody had asked me about it. What do I do with my little crate? I told them what they could do with it, but I don't think it would fit. But no, it can work. All you got to do is use that logic, and now you know what it is. So the poor man's way, right there. Velcro, pieces of wood, shove them on there, do everything I told you to do, porting the back of closed cabinets, micing them from the back and the front instead of just the front. Okay, things like that. Work with it. You'll get the results. Just now you know how to do it. Okay, once again, Scott Grove. Happy playing, play loud, play well, play often, and I'll shut up just so I can go play. Okay, talk to y'all later. Take care, and bye.